Hey, where you going?
Hey, you want a beer once?
If you don't believe me, you can count on yourself.
Alright, yeah, tell me what happened, okay? Don't bullshit me.
The day starts at 5 a.m. for Jake. He's a new dad with ambition and a supportive wife. He dresses sharp, wipes down his LAPD badge, and steels himself for the assignment that could earn him a promotion. Everyone says he's lucky, including his woman. The landline rings and his wife answers, then hands it over. On the other end, an officer sets a 10 o'clock meeting at a coffee shop. He tells Jake to bring a backup gun, comfortable shoes, and cuffs. This is an aggressive unit. Action can spring up any time. Then he hangs up before Jake can even try his little speech of thanks. Nervous, Jake mutters,
I feel like it's the first day of football tryouts. I mean, I wish it was tomorrow already so I'd know whether I made a squad.
At the cafe, Jake finds Alonzo in a booth and sits across from him. The man is stone cold, his hostility making Jake even more uneasy. Still, Jake forces conversation, and Alonzo lowers his newspaper just long enough to demand a story, not Jake's life story, but something worthy of replacing his paper. Jake launches into an anecdote about a DUI stop with his female training officer. He runs through the whole event while Alonzo listens. Finally, Alonzo dismisses it as dull, saying the real question is whether Jake was sleeping with his trainer. Then the exchange is over, and Alonzo tells Jake to pick up the check before he walks out like he owns the street. Jake scrambles to follow. They end up in Alonzo's car, which doubles as his office. As they cruise smoothly through the streets, Alonzo lays down the rules and makes it clear Jake has to prove he belongs on this team. He presses him on why narcotics and asks twice before Jake admits the truth. He wants to be a detective. That's when training really begins. Alonzo tells him to get familiar with his environment, to learn Spanish if he wants to stay a step ahead. This job isn't about fistfights in alleys or chasing down street thugs, it's about brain power. Alonzo knows Jake thinks he comes off odd with his gangster edge and unconventional approach, but Jake keeps his opinion to himself. Then, Alonzo starts pressing him about his family, throwing little jabs that make the rookie shift uncomfortably. That's when Alonzo lays down another lesson. He has to learn to hold a poker face. If the enemy senses he has something valuable, they'll use it against him. On that account, Alonzo orders Jake to slip off his wedding band. Their first stop is in Nito's neighborhood. Neto is one of Alonzo's informants, the kind who tips him off whenever something big is happening. While the two officers wait under a shed, a car pulls up and Nito greets the passenger with a handshake. To Alonzo, that's the signal that it's go time and a good chance to test Jake. He tells the rookie to keep his name off the radio reports while he gets ready with his gun. They tail the car, cut it off, and block it in. When they move in, the suspects turn out to be nothing more than college kids. Alonzo searches them and confiscates some green, a pipe, and cigarettes. In the car, Alonzo praises Jake's reaction, calling it good training. From there, he launches into a lecture about good green, shows off his expertise in narcotics. He pushes Jake to take a hit from the pipe, but the rookie keeps refusing, even as Alonzo insists it's just about trying it. Suddenly, Alonzo slams the brakes in the middle of the road and presses a gun to Jake's head. He tells him he doesn't want him on the squad, because if this had been real field work, his refusal to take the drugs would have meant game over. So Jake finally asks for the pipe, and on his first puff he coughs so hard that Alonzo instantly knows he's never done this before. Alonzo pushes him to get used to it, and 2 puffs later Jake is handling it better. When the ride resumes, Jake is already starting to feel dazed, with Alonzo keeping a close eye on him. Jake's never had green laced with PCP before, and that's what has him hallucinating now. Panic sets in as he remembers he'll have to take a drug test at the real office, but Alonzo just teases him and Jake can't figure out why Alonzo is messing with him so much. They pull up in a nicer neighborhood and Alonzo tells Jake to pull himself together because they're about to meet his partner for evaluation. Introductions are made and they sit down for a drink. Jake is still dazed enough that Roger notices and laughs at him. When Roger gets a call, he brushes it off, ignoring even the second ring so he can finish a strange story about a snail, which he tells just to mess with Jake. Roger, an ex-drug dealer, only has to shrug off his jacket to slip right back into the look of his past life. Together, Roger and Alonzo keep teasing the rookie, and Roger points out that Alonzo wasn't much different. After bidding Roger goodbye, they get back in Alonzo's Monte Carlo, Jake dozing off. While they're cruising, Jake spots a scene in an alley that makes him suddenly sharpen. He yells for Alonzo to stop the car, and when he does, he races against traffic back to the alley with his gun raised, screaming he's a police officer. There are 2 men not ready to back down and attacking him. He tackles one at the same time Alonzo pulls up at the scene. Jake has the one guy in a chokehold, but the other one is still free and kicking at him. Alonzo doesn't interfere, and the victim is still backed up in a corner. Once the first guy is passed out, Jake turns his attention to the kicker and has him subdued, not listening to his denials even as he places cuffs on him. Then he turns his attention back to the first guy, kicks him over, and cuffs him too. Only then does Alonzo step in and Jake calls him out on it. The girl gets off tough, mentioning cousins that are going to retaliate. Alonzo tells her to go home, brushing off Jake's procedure for a statement. He makes it clear they could just kill the culprits right there. Jake is confused over Alonzo's tactics. The guy squats down to taunt the felons, giving them mock options of jail time or going home. The first guy stays mouthy and aggressive, but the second keeps his head down. Alonzo pats him down, finds money. Suddenly, Alonzo hauls the first man up, roughing him hard. The guy's tough talk fades into whimpers as Alonzo flashes a blade and presses 2 pistols against him. The intimidation grows darker when Alonzo shoves the barrel down his waistband, threatening to take off one nut. Finally, he delivers a swing between the guy's legs with the pistol and stalks off. The more timid guy now grows mouthy, spitting threats, while Jake just stares at him. Still stunned and confused, Jake looks around and finds the girl's wallet, slipping it into his pocket. She's only 14, and the men show no sign of remorse for what they were about to do. Back in the car, Alonzo knows Jake is mad but teases him anyway, says he can go back and play good cop if he can. Jake's irritation is that they let the suspects go. Alonzo nonchalantly explains cases like that are for the patrol cops. Jake wants to be an investigator. Yeah, he wants to keep crime off the streets, but to do that, he's got to catch wolves, not sheep. Hearing this doesn't change his mood.
When do you lock anybody up? I mean, it seems like you're pretty busy keeping people out.
That riles his driver up, making Alonzo defend his tactics and swear by his impressive results. He turns the mic on Jake, but the rookie doesn't exactly have an impressive resume to fire back with. The air is still heavy when Alonzo hands over the pipe and the confiscated cash, telling Jake to stash them in the glove box since they'll come in handy later.
Hey, no matter what I say, you did the right thing. Reminds me when I was out there chasing down bad guys, rocking their world.
Alonzo respects what Jake did back in the alley, even calling out the chokehold, which is illegal for a cop, as proof that Jake's got it in him. For Alonzo, it's the perfect way to drive home the point. Out here, they do what they have to do. The mood then shifts back to playful and teasing. But on a more serious note, Alonzo sees that Jake has sharp eyes. What he needs now is to learn how to blend in with the streets. Down a new block, a dealer approaches Jake and asks what he wants. The second Jake mentions candy, the guy gets suspicious and pulls away. Alonzo signals for a reluctant Jake to follow, and he ends up pushing through this crowd before tackling the disabled man in a wig shop. While the store owner nags, Alonzo steps in and helps put Blue back in his wheelchair. They want rocks, but Blue insists he doesn't deal in that anymore. Jake pats him down and finds no drugs, just a loaded gun, which Blue claims Jake planted on him. Alonzo doesn't relent. He tells Blue to open his mouth and stick out his tongue, then grabs a pen from Jake and shoves it down the man's throat until he vomits. Right there in the pool of puke is what they're looking for. With the possession charge stacking up, Alonzo threatens him with years of jail time. Blue resists being a snitch, but in the end, he gives up a name, Sandman, from the county, and swears that's all he knows. Just like that, Alonzo lets him roll free. Back in the car, Alonzo calls a man named Bob and gets directions to Sandman's place. When they arrive, his plan is to gain entry with a fake warrant, something Jake immediately objects to. But Alonzo is already on his "I've got a badge, I do what I want" mindset. At the door, Sandman's mistress insists he isn't home, but Alonzo keeps pressing that they need access and have a warrant. The moment she cracks the door, he shoves his way inside and knocks her to the floor. Her young nephew is in the house too, but no one else. While Jake reluctantly pats her down for weapons, Alonzo checks through the house. He spots Dimitri and orders the kid to sit by his aunt on the couch. As Alonzo tears the place apart, the mistress demands to see the warrant. She points out that they never gave her a copy and came without backup. Alonzo tries to shut her up, but she notices Jake's unease and calls him a rookie. Meanwhile, Alonzo keeps ransacking, slipping something into his pocket. Suspicious, she rises to confront him. Agitated, Jake draws his gun to hold her back. Alonzo steps out, suddenly claiming it was a mistake and they found nothing, but she still wants that warrant. He hands her what he has, and they quickly leave. She rushes into the room, screaming that they've stolen money and alerting the whole block. Alonzo and Jake make for the car, but the engine won't start. The residents outside closing in with bullets. Alonzo answers with both pistols, forcing men into cover while Jake fights with the ignition. The car finally roars alive. Alonzo slips in and they speed off under a hail of gunfire. Jake fumes.
That was not cool, all right? That was not cool at all. Were you opening fire in the middle of a neighborhood? Shit, man. Where was the Sandman, huh? I mean, what the hell were you doing back there?
Alonzo replies smugly.
Checking for narcotics activity, you know.
Jake doesn't buy it. He heard the woman screaming about stolen money, and now the thought of misconduct and scandal hangs heavy. But Alonzo cuts him short, telling him to pull over. They step out, and Alonzo lays it out straight. If Jake is going to keep getting rattled by this world, then he should go back to something softer. After all, Jake was the one who said he wanted to make a difference, and to do that, you can't be sheep. You've got to be a wolf. Alonzo says,
Get your ring. Or go give him a hand.
He points across the highway at a uniform helping a woman with her tire. Alonzo turns into a corner Jake recognizes as trouble. Years of investigations trace back to this block. It's dangerous ground, the kind Alonzo warns Jake not to walk alone. Alonzo earns his pass here by knowing how to roll up and when to threaten. Jake notices the pigeons acting strange up ahead, and Alonzo explains it's a signal for his arrival. Sure enough, a man nearby claps, keeping the birds into formation. On the block, Alonzo gets respect to his face, though behind his back they can't stand him. As far as he's concerned, they're all under his thumb. He and Jake head into an apartment where Alonzo's mistress greets him with a long kiss. He finally pulls back to introduce Jake. Once they settle in, she serves a meal, and Jake notices Alonzo's young son, glued to his video game. Later, Alonzo finds Jake dozing off, hovers over him, then wakes him as it's time to go and they've got a meeting in 15 minutes. While Jake waits outside, Alonzo shares a somewhat heartfelt moment with his son before leaving. Their next stop is LAPD's finest, and Alonzo warns Jake to watch his words. Inside, Jake is introduced to Captain Lou, Stan Grusky, and Detective Doug, 3 high-ranking officials. Alonzo takes his seat with them while Jake hangs back. The mood starts light, with Doug cracking jokes and telling a funny story, but soon shifts. Alonzo was in Vegas last week where he crossed the Russian mafia. Now the table suggests he leave town, but Alonzo plays it cool, acting like he's in control. His plan is simply to cash in an account and settle things. It's his call, but Lou warns him not to let this move blow up in his face. Outside, Alonzo pulls out the money they stole from Sandman's place and stuffs it in the trunk of Lou's car. He gets on the Rover, handling the rest of the paperwork to secure a warrant. When the call ends, he casually tells Jake they just used $40,000 in stolen cash to buy themselves an arrest warrant. Soon the squad assembles. Paul eyes Jake and doesn't bother hiding his disdain, calling him a fish out of water who needs to stay out of the way. Alonzo checks the warrant, confirms it's legit, and gives a quick rundown of the plan so everyone can finish up and get back to their lives. They hit Roger's house, catching him completely off guard. At first, Roger thinks Alonzo has no idea what's going on, but when Alonzo steps out of the shadows and hands him a paper, it's clear he does. Alonzo says he was sent by the higher-ups to bleed him for cash, but it doesn't mean Roger's protection is gone, or that he'll even miss the money they're about to take. In the kitchen, Alonzo, Jake, and 2 others dig up the safe. Instead of narcotics like Jake thought, they find over $4 million. Alonzo says they'll log $3 million under seizure, while the extra $1 million gets split among them, a quarter each, but Jake refuses his cut. Things take a darker turn when Alonzo calls Jake to sit beside him across from Roger, then orders him to pull the trigger. Roger even eggs him on. Jake refuses, and Alonzo executes Roger himself. He then stages the scene, shooting one of his own men twice in the vest, hard enough to draw real blood, while Jeff scrambles to call an ambulance. The setup is clear. They'll pin Roger's death on Jake, spin it into a hero story with a Valor Medal, but Jake refuses to play along. Alonzo threatens to take him down with Roger, and when Jake wrests the gun away, he suddenly has Alonzo at gunpoint, but the rest of the squad aims their weapons at Jake. He doesn't care though, as if it comes to it, he'll take Alonzo down with him. Alonzo waves his men off, then calmly reminds Jake that if he refuses to corroborate, his blood test will show PCP, and that was the plan all along. Broken and teary, Jake lowers his weapon and storms out just as sirens wail closer. While blue suits sweep through the scene, Jake stands off to the side, watching with cold detachment. Back in the car, he keeps silent long enough for Alonzo to poke, until finally Jake breaks and says what happened back there was not okay. Alonzo laughs at the idea that he and Roger were ever friends. Roger was a dealer who'd been flooding the streets with poison for kids, operating untouched for 10 years. All Alonzo did was fit in long enough to take him out. He insists Jake take his cut for the sake of the team, but Jake refuses. He's had enough, and if this is how narcotics works, he'd rather go back to patrol. Jake says he doesn't accept this method of operation, but Alonzo pushes back that this is reality. He admits he was once like Jake, caught up in denial. Now his tone softens as he appeals to Jake's ambition, reminding him of his drive to get promoted. With time and the right training, Jake could even take his position one day because he's got the spirit of a leader. But for now, they need to head to the DA's office and lay out their story. It's late into the night when Alonzo pulls into an informant's block, a truck full of supplies in the back. He says they're here to help out the family of a man locked up in Chino. Inside the house, it's clear this is gangster territory, women and kids mixed in. Alonzo gifts include a blender, a CD player, and some cash they hand off to the lady of the house to count. Then he excuses himself, saying he's going to see the head. With Alonzo gone, the crew turns to Jake. They tell him to sit, play a hand of cards instead of standing like a cop. Reluctantly, he agrees to one draw. As they play, they push conversation on him, pressing him to show his gun. Jake does, but ejects the chamber first before handing it over. The room feels tighter, and soon he's itching to leave. When he peers out the window, the crew laughs, telling him straight up he's been played. The woman returns with the counted cash, says it's complete. That's when the tone shifts and they press Jake harder, wanting to know who Alonzo ripped off to get this kind of money. The truth drops that in Vegas, Alonzo killed a Russian mobster, got himself marked for death, and owed the Russian mafia $1 million by midnight. Now he's already paid his way out and disappeared, leaving Jake to the wolves. Jake bolts for the door, but a bottle smashes across his head, dropping him. The crew orders the women and kids out, then keep him at gunpoint, cuffing his wrists. They drag him like dead weight into the bathroom and dunk his head in a tub, water rushing over his face as Smiley presses a rifle against him. One of the guys says they should strip him down first as maybe he'll find cash. That's when they pull the girl's wallet from his pocket. Smiley freezes when she's his cousin. Her being tied up in this makes him hesitate. Jake thrashes, screaming that he saved her from an assault earlier, shouting that he's got a daughter of his own. The crew bickers, but Smiley dials her number. When she answers and confirms Jake's story, Smiley finally lowers the gun. Against his crew's protests, he cuts Jake loose, earning him a narrow escape. Jake takes the bus, pistol returned, and gets dropped near Sarah's place. The guards wave him through, and he spots Alonzo's son watching TV, tosses gravel at the window to get his attention. The boy sneaks him inside after confirming his dad's in the bedroom. Jake tells him to hide in the closet. Moving quietly through the house, Jake hears Alonzo's voice and bursts in. Alonzo says,
Congratulations, son. You made it. You passed the test. You're a narc. You're in. Please, put the gun down before you give my girl a heart attack here. Put the gun down.
He's got that smug look even as Jake orders him to put the money and weapons where he can see them. Alonzo starts into another long-winded speech, claiming he's the one with the real power. He slips a few hidden guns into a pillowcase, and Jake steps in closer, just a second too distracted. Alonzo moves to slap the pistol away, and the room explodes into gunfire. Alonzo grips a rifle while Jake clings to his service pistol, pinned in the kitchen as Alonzo yaps, trying to bait him out. The standoff breaks when Alonzo's son wanders in, freezing both men. Jake reaches him first, guiding the boy to the living room while Alonzo's girlfriend screams from the bedroom. She rushes out, dressed, and Jake lets her reunite with her child. By then, Alonzo slipped through the window. Jake climbs onto the roof, scanning the silence. Then he catches Alonzo sprinting across to the next building, making the jump clean. Jake follows, clinging to the banister before swinging himself over, only to take a punch square from Alonzo. They grapple for the gun, shots firing wild. Alonzo keeps the edge, pummeling Jake with fists, boots, even whatever's within reach. Jake's tossed around, beaten until he's bloodied and limp on the rooftop. Alonzo scoops up his duffel bag and heads off toward his meeting with the Russians. Just as Alonzo pulls out of the driveway, Jake crashes onto his windshield. Alonzo swerves and slams the car to shake him off, but Jake hangs on. One hard crash jolts Alonzo, giving Jake the opening to smash him with punches. Neighbors spill out, watching as Jake drags Alonzo into the street. Alonzo shouts promises of money to anyone willing to take Jake down, but the crowd stays silent. Cornered, Alonzo gets back to his feet, mocking Jake to pull the trigger, certain he won't. Then Bone steps forward, lays down his gun, and declares, "It's time Alonzo's reign ends." Jake fires into Alonzo's backside, a warning that he's done playing games, but he still can't pull the trigger to finish it. The standoff drags until Bone picks up his weapon and tells Jake to walk away. Jake doesn't look back. Bone doesn't shoot either, and the crowd disperses, leaving Alonzo to gloat in the street. On his way to the airport, the Russians catch up and unload on him, ending what Jake and Bone wouldn't. Jake finally heads home, exhausted as the news spreads of Alonzo's death. It's a wrap for this one. Keep watching for more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.